I'm Scott. I teach one of the BFGs here at 9th and O, and this is Devotionables, and we're finishing up our series on Proverbs, looking in Proverbs 31, verses 9 through 31, thinking about the godly woman that is mentioned here. And I want to read a couple verses from that, starting in verse 10. An excellent wife, who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. And then skip down to the very end of the chapter. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. So, looking at this, one thing that's interesting about this is in Hebrew, it is an acrostic poem. So every line begins with a successive letter of the alphabet. So in English, it would be the first letter would begin with A and the second with B and so forth. And so in some ways, it's saying that this is what a godly woman would look like from A to Z, like it covers everything. And so what are those attributes? There's several attributes. I'll kind of sum them up. You have this person, she works hard, provides for what her family needs. She's kind to the poor and the people who have needs. She's wise with her resources. She teaches wisdom, godly wisdom in a loving way, and her family praises her. So then the question is, what do we take from this, or what is the purpose of this? And I think one thing, and we look at Proverbs is describing what life ideally should look like. This is how God is describing. This is how the world should work ideally, and this is how you can have the good life and what the good life actually is. We shouldn't assume that we know what it looks like. And I think that's a warning that's there at the very end of it, where it says, charm is deceitful and beauty is vain. And so that tells us and reaffirms that we don't always know what is good and what should be praised. We sometimes might praise the wrong things. And so that's important for us to know that. And in our culture, we might esteem charm and pleasant personality and physical attractiveness way more than we should. Whereas what should be praised is the person, or the woman in this situation, who fears the Lord. That is who should be praised. And so then, what about these things that this does, this godly woman? What does she do that should be praised? Much of her work and her sacrifice and her life is devoted to others. She does all of these things for the service of other people, to enrich their lives and make them better. She doesn't do it for herself. She does it for them. And I think that's a very good lesson that we can get from this. And this is what godliness really looks like. It is serving other people. It is working hard for the good of others, not for the good of yourself, but for the good of other people. That is what a praiseworthy person looks like. They're the person who sacrifices themselves for other people. And ultimately, we see that in Jesus, as he is the one who lived his life completely for other people. His ministry was about serving other people. His ministry was about helping other people as best he could. And then the end of his life literally was a sacrifice for other people. And so we should strive for this kind of godliness in ourselves and in others. So when you read this and we look at this, first off, it's addressed as to the woman who fears the Lord, to the godly woman. And so certainly this is a lesson and a model for women to look at, to strive for, that they should strive for this kind of lifestyle that is working for the good of others. As men, we should praise this in our spouses and our daughters and our friends and family, the women that we know, that this is what you should strive for. This is what a godly person will look like and a godly woman will look like. And we shouldn't evaluate based on the world's standards. We should evaluate on the standards that God has taught us in this. And ultimately, men and women can learn from this. There's really nothing here that is just for women to do. Men should be looking to work hard for the good of other people, to live their life in a way that is sacrificing their own good for the good of others. And this is ultimately going to point us to Jesus, to look at us and say, this is what a life should look like. We live for other people, and that helps remind us of who Jesus is and who we are and the needs that we have. And ultimately, this godly woman's lifestyle will point us to Jesus, as would any godly person's lifestyle. They'll point us to Jesus, they'll point others to Jesus, and that is the end and the goal that we should strive for. And that is the praiseworthy and the wise way to live.